Good morning, friends. It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. Hope you are doing well. What you just saw was me mixing up a big bucket of seed starting mix. So I mentioned that week 36 is the big seed starting time, and it is. Technically, we are still in week 35. This is Friday, but I have a lot of stuff going on next week, multiple appointments, lots of work to do out front to continue the clean out. I need to harvest honey. There's just a bunch of stuff going on next week. So, because I had some appointments today and couldn't have time to get all dirty and showered up, I figured I would start some seeds today. I don't think I'll get through all of these. This is a lot. So before I start, I just wanted to share with you what we've got. So they're in this box here. I've got vegetables and flowers. Now the flowers that are being started, these are for the spring. So I start all of my spring flowers in the fall or early fall. Basically it's late summer. We get them to a decent size in here and then harden them off and transplant them out at the farm. And then they put on a little bit of growth before the frost hits. And then they just hang out and basically kind of sit there dormant until it starts warming up in the spring, and then they grow. And starting these flowers in the fall gives me a head start in the spring. I get about a month earlier production out of these plants than I would if I planted them in very early spring. Now, I also usually do a very early spring succession of the same plants, just in case as a backup, which I definitely needed this year. This is not the last time I'll be starting these guys, but it's also easier to start these now because it is not freezing cold. So when I start these same things in the very early spring, that might be February. And so, it's freezing in here overnight unless I'm running the heater. And it takes them a lot longer to germinate, even though they're on seedling heat mats. So it's just a lot easier to do it now and get them out there. And if we're going to have, pretty much all of these are frost tolerant. Some of them can even take snow load. We don't get snow here. If it's going to be like pretty ugly weather, like maybe hard frost, I might go out there and put hoop and row cover over them just to prevent like damage. So they can freeze, but if they freeze hard and then birds or animals are walking around and crunching the leaves and stuff, that they break off, and then so sometimes I'll do that. Okay, so let me talk about what we're starting. Not all of these, hardly any of them actually have photographs. So where I can, I will try to put some photos up here for you. The first one that I'm starting, which is actually for this week, week 35, is just Delphinium. It's the Magic Fountains mix from Johnny's. And these are not, I don't know, I might put some out at the farm. Mostly I was going to put these in the cottage garden. Things that I put in the cottage garden, I can also harvest for the bouquets and stuff, but I don't generally grow a big row of delphiniums because for me these are oftentimes perennial. Well, they're biennial plants, but oftentimes they will come, self-sow themselves through my cottage garden. And so the stuff that I put out at the farm, I kind of want to be annual row crops unless they're in the perennial section. So we'll be doing these. Then we are moving on to Feverfew. Now I have the Feverfew that's out there right now was planted last fall and it really struggled. It never really did well this year. The plants are still very small, and usually my Feverfew gets huge, 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 and like hundreds of stems. So I am going to leave what's already out there because Feverfew for me is perennial. I will be forking the soil all around them, adding gypsum, adding more compost, and hoping that will loosen the soil a little bit. And then I'm starting another round today that we'll put in for the rest of that row. So I'll have an entire row of Feverfew, which is probably more than I need, most definitely more than I need, but that should guarantee that I'll get some. And I can always pull out the old Feverfew to free up that part of the bed if I need for next year. So we have Sunny Ball, Magic Single, Magic Lime Green. So 3 varieties. I love this plant. Feverfew. It's such a great filler. The seeds are extremely small. there are 50 seeds in this packet, and you can barely feel them. They're like poppy seed size, so they're kind of challenging to sow. But it's status, and the status that I have out there right now, I'm also leaving in place. So status for me can also be perennial. Status is one of those plants that once it gets going, it's great and it's almost indestructible. But in its early phase, when it's a seedling, the birds decimate it. They tear those leaves apart. Mice will eat it down to nothing. So I am going to start more and do the same thing as I'm doing with the feverfew. I'm leaving the few plants that survived, because I lost almost every status plant last year or last season, this season. And so I'm starting more, and I will just plant them in the area of the bed that the current ones are and just kind of move out from there. So then we'll still have space on either side of that for other things. So we're doing pastel shades, which I love because it has a lot of like apricot and pink and peachy colors in it. Then QIS yellow, which is just a yellow, very yellow status, and then Seeker blue and the Seeker mix. Now, the reason I'm starting these is because they're very old. These seeds are old. They're from 2021, and they should still be fine. But I'm just trying to use up those seeds before I move on. I, for the most part, will be mostly just doing pastel shades and maybe one blue, like a tiny section of blue in the future, because those are my favorites. Still trying to move through the stock from previous years. So we're going to start more of this just to use it all up. And I've got quite a few packets here. We've got Cat's Yellow, which is just a pretty butter yellow, iron pastel mix, Cat's apricot. I really like this one. Got a couple of those. And, oh, a lot of those. Apparently I liked it a lot, so I bought more. And then Cat's white and antique pink. Stock is a brassica. It is a member of the family that has broccoli and Brussels sprouts and all that kind of stuff. And so it is very tasty. It's edible, and so it's very tasty to lots of critters. So this is one that also gets pretty decimated. So I sow it really thickly. I put them in, I pack them in close. And the other thing is, stock is a one stem cut, so it will not branch. What it sends up is what you get. So with stock, because of that, I plant them at like every 4 inches. So it's a very tight grid, which I find super useful because they tend to support themselves with each other because they're packed so tightly together. So they don't do as much laying down as they would if they're further apart. So it's a great way to use a small bit of space to fill a whole lot, to make a whole lot of flowers. So I will be sowing those. All of these are going into soil blocks, and then we'll let them get to a decent size before we plant them out. Also, the thing with stock is it's super fragrant, smells beautiful. But stock wants to be, because it's a brassica, it wants to just be single petals. So it's very common in your seed packet to get a mix of singles and doubles. You ideally want lots of doubles because that's when they look beautiful and frilly and all that. So breeders are trying really hard to weed out the singles. You can determine which one is a single and which one is double based on the seedling, and you can just not plant the singles. But that takes more time, so I generally do both. And sometimes I don't mind the singles. They're pretty, they're kind of dainty. They're not blousy and thick and beautiful, but that's okay. There's a place for both. So, all right, that's stock. Okay, next is straw flower. Now, again, this is one that can be perennial for me. But I am going to go ahead and start. So I have a good size row at the farm of straw flower, but a lot of it, the first, I don't know, 10 feet, really struggled this year. It gave me stems. It's still giving me stems. But it didn't do what it always does, which is develop a big giant plant, and I can just cut lots of stems off of it. It was really anemic. I do have a few plants that look beautiful, and I'm going to keep those, and the others I'm pulling out, and we'll put these guys in their place. So colors. Straw flower I also love because it is really fun in a bouquet fresh, but they dry beautifully. Perfect color, holds forever. Same with status. So they're really great, like multi-purpose flower. So I have apricot peach mix, copper red, which I really love. This is a beautiful red color with a yellow center. King size orange, seashells mix, which is kind of those kind of pastel-y colors, and silvery rose. This one's beautiful. It's kind of like, it's a whitish, silverish with a pink interior. So it's really pretty. And vintage white. Last couple of things, Ami Magus. I have a couple of varieties here. They're all Ami though. So Daucus carata, also called Ami, even though it's a different genus and species than Ami Magus. It can get confusing. So I have Dara, which is chocolate lace flower, and I have a new one called Purple Kisses, also chocolate lace flower. These are extremely productive. This is one of the stands at the farm this year that just pumped out flowers for like months. I finally let the whole thing go to seed, and of course we'll get tons of those popping up. In fact, I'm going to save a bunch of that seed so I don't have to buy seed next year because it's really great at self-sowing. Just a beautiful plant and really great for pollinators because it's an umbellifer. It is like a flat landing pad with hundreds of tiny, tiny white flowers, and in this case also purple. And it's a perfect landing pad for different types of pollinators that are not like deep nectar seeking ones. And so, yeah, I just love it. And it's beautiful in bouquets. And then we have true Ami Magus, false Queen Anne's lace. We have the white dill variety and the Queen of Africa variety. That will not be all the flower starting for the farm for the fall, but that's a good majority. We will also have ranunculus that will be pre-sprouting and putting out there. Snapdragons, which will come a little bit later. I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, there's some other things. And of course the tulips. So all of that still will need to be done as well. Okay, veggie time. And these mostly have pictures. So the first thing is I need to get my onions started. So I'm going to do these. I'm really focusing on intermediate days onions now. We have to do short day onions further south from here. So I do have some short days, but for the most part, we are not northern. We can't do long day onions. And so intermediate is really the best for my latitude. So we're starting with this one, Monostril, I guess. It's a nice red onion. And they're slightly flattened. I'll be starting those. We are also starting a short day onion here, Yellow Granex. This is just a classic. Tends to do really well. I like these are bunching onions. This is Italian Red of Florence. These actually did great for me this year. I hadn't labeled them, and so when I pulled them out of the ground, I thought that they were failed red bulbing onions, but no, they were perfectly fine Italian flat onions. Okay, and then I have a hybrid yellow onion called Safrane from Johnny's, and then we have another intermediate day. This one is Flat of Italy, and that's it. So those are the onions. That's a lot of onions. It's funny, I don't even like onions. Like, I will chop them up and cook with them, but I do not like eating onions raw or otherwise. And it's funny because I'm desperate to grow them well. I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's the same thing with carrots that I get frustrated with. I've had maybe one decent crop of carrots in all the years I've been gardening. So I definitely want to succeed, so I just keep trying. Speaking of carrots, I'm going to be sowing carrots every other week for the next probably month. Just one row. And that way I will have multiple successions, and those last year did great just staying through the winter. They just kind of overwintered just fine, and I was able to go out there and pull them when I needed them. But this is a kaleidoscope variety, so multicolors. And the mustards. Now I grow these, there's two varieties here, Florida Broadleaf and Red Giant. I grow these, one, because they're beautiful. Two, they're spicy kick. They're really fun to munch on, and they give you that kick kind of like wasabi. It's not a pepper capsicum heat. It's different. So I do enjoy them. The chickens love them, and they're very good for the chickens. The other reason I grow them is that nothing wants to eat them. So I can grow tons of these, and the rats won't touch them because they're super like potent. Plus, they are great at biofumigating the soil of any diseases that you have, fungal diseases that you have. They like just kill it. And I had a lot of fungal disease, not the spring that just passed, the spring before. So I grew a lot of mustard, chopped it all up, turned it under the soil in the beds, and grew stuff in there this year. And we did not have any spring fungal disease. Now, that doesn't mean the mustard did it, because we also had a very different spring. But it does help a lot. So it also helps me mentally because the rats don't eat it. So at least when I go out there in the wintertime, there's beautiful plants continuing to grow that nobody's eating, and it makes me feel better. It doesn't look like a desolate garden. So anyway, plus they're easy to grow and they are nutritious. They've got great stuff in them. So those are all the seeds that I'm starting today / tomorrow. I've got a big batch of my soil mixed up. What goes in my seed starting mix, it changes. It's kind of what I have on hand, but I sift seed starter mix, or if all I have is like raised bed mix or regular potting soil, I sift that in the fine sieve so that I can get out all the wood and all the chunks, all the big things. Because in soil blocks, in order for them to hold together, they need to be small particle sizes. So sift all that. Then I add worm castings. So I added a whole bag of that because this is a big bucket. And mycorrhizal pellets it's more like sand. And then if I have green sand on hand, I will add that as well. Mostly what we're looking for here is not a whole lot of nutrition, but more of a microbial community, right? Because the seeds themselves don't need anything but water and either light or darkness to germinate, and a tiny bit of heat. And the seedlings, when they come up, will get a little bit of nutrition from the soil, but then I'll be dosing them weekly with fish emulsion, which is very, very mild, but it's just enough to get them started. So they don't need heavy fertilizer or anything like that at this point. Yeah, so that's what it is. I will put some in my tray, mix it up with water to a pretty wet consistency, because that's what you need to make the soil blocks hold together. So for years, I've been starting these seeds in this soil blocker. This is 3/4 inch, I believe. And there are 20 cells in this. So on a tray, I can get 120, 240 seedlings on one of my seed starting trays. So in a tray like this, I can fit 240 seedlings. But I have noticed over this last year or so that size soil block, with the amount of time, because of my outside conditions, that I need to leave these in the soil blocks before I can transplant them. If I transplant them too small, they just die, whether from heat or water or being eaten. So it's better for me to transplant more robust seedlings. So I have a bigger soil blocker. This, I think this is 72 cells. Let me see, 75. So this can also fit in this tray. It's just that there's one on either side. So it's fewer seedlings, but that's okay. I have space in here. This bigger block, and it's only slightly bigger, but it's big enough that the seedlings can get bigger and not, first of all, they don't dry out as fast. And they get bigger before I have to bump them up, so I can avoid that step. And so I think this is what I'm going to use this year, and we'll see if there's a difference in the health of the seedlings. And yeah, this one's a lot harder to use. That soil blocker is super easy and fast, but this one, it takes a lot more work. You have to really pack it in tight, but not too tight so that you can't press it out. It's a lot more fiddly. So first, what I need to do before I start making soil blocks is I need to look at my crop list and determine how many seeds I need of each variety, and then make my labels. Usually what I do on these trays is I write what I'm sowing on a piece of tape and put it on the side of the tray so that I don't have to have individual labels. It's just on the side of the tray and it's pointing to whatever set of soil blocks. And then I put the date so that I know exactly what's in that tray. So I need to get all that stuff set up, then I can fill the trays, then we can start sowing the seeds. So it's quite a production, but it's a beautiful day. It's going to be very hot later today, which is another reason I didn't really want to work inside the garden today. But everything is set. It's all clean. It's ready for seedlings. So I am anxious to get started. So I'm going to put my book on and just get rolling on this process. I'll show you the first couple of things, and then it's just kind of repetitive after that. But once we're all sown out and on the racks, I'll show you what we've got. All right, y'all, it's the next day. So I just did the final 2 trays today. It got super busy. We were running in and out of the city for appointments and things like that. So I just couldn't finish yesterday. And I wish I had an earlier start today because it is now 37 Celsius, almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit in here. It's really hot and I'm in the shade. Yeah, it's a hot day, so we will not be working in the garden today. Tomorrow's supposed to be really hot too, so we'll see. Maybe I can get some early morning stuff done before it gets too hot. But that's gonna be it for today and yesterday. Thanks for hanging out with me. Let me know in the comments if you are starting seeds right now, what you are starting. September is a great time in most zones to start something. Even if you're in a low zone, like 4 or 5, you could start radishes or carrots, something that loves the cool weather. So thanks again for hanging out. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.